This is just a continuation video of what I've did previously on Unit Standard 14944. So in the previous video, we looked at the types of database management systems. So this is just a continuation video. So I'll just cover only few slides for the types of DPMS and what is DPMS. So let's look at what is DPMS. What do they mean by DPMS, which is the database management system? So a DPMS is a single or set of computer programs that are responsible for creating, editing, deleting, and maintaining a database or collection of data records. The type of database management is management system is determined by the database model, and a database model is the manner in which data is collected, collection is stored, managed, and administrated. Uh, on slide 23, we've got the advantages of the DPMS, data independence and data integrity and security. So looking at the data independence, it provides an abstract view of data in such a manner that applications are independent from how data is stored physically. And also it contains the separation of data structure of database from the application program that uses data, which collects which is called data independent. So in this instance, this feature has a feature where it separates data structure. So for instance, it gives us a separation of data. So you separate data depending on the object that you have saved. So in this object, it contains its data, and in this object it contains its data also. So that's more of a data independent. So these data are independent to one another. So this data is not dependent to this, but they come from one object, which is cause. But these two are independent and it's an abstract, so they are on their own. So if this gets deleted by mistake, these data won't be affected. Like for instance, if I were to delete this, it won't delete everything. They are not affected. They are not affected in any way. So that's what they mean in terms of data independence. And also data integrity and security. DPMS enforces integrity constraints on the data, thus preventing erroneous data. So what do they refer to when they say data is it has integrity? So for instance, if I were to change or delete data, obviously I have to follow a certain process. So if I were to delete this data which is independent to this, it won't affect the data from 14908. So this has it is the structure or the model, it contains its integrity. So any changes that I make on these objects won't affect other objects. So the model of how data is stored, it has integrity. And also in terms of security, each and every personnel that uses a data structure has credentials to modify. So that's more of a security level. So a DPMS enforces access controls that govern what data is visible to a user, role, or group of users, what I've just explained. Also on to slide 24, the types of database management system. We've got a relational database management. So this is a type of database management system that stores data in a row-based table structure. So in this instance, it's more of your rows and tables, something similar to this, where you have in Excel your rows and columns. This is more of your relational data type. This is a perfect example to explain a relational data type. So we'll just refer back to this Excel, and the good thing, this is your rollout plan, so we'll just refer to it whenever we talk about relational database. So the relational model relies on normalizing data within rows and columns in tables. So the data can be related to other data in the same table or other tables, which has to be correctly managed by joining one or more tables. So for instance, in this instance, there's no relation to other rows and columns. But let's say, for instance, technical support, training session feedback. Okay, there's no much. Assessment result. This assessment result table uh, has a relationship with this attendance register. So if you attend less, the assessment result in terms of how the result would deem you to be not yet competent. So we may say the relation between attendance register, there is a relationship in terms of these two tables. So that's what we mean. And also looking at the examples, I'll just we have Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, and SQLite. So I've used before a MySQL type of relational database, and it's a command prompt type of database where you can just add using configuration or commands onto that MySQL. So I think I have that. Let me just MySQL. Oh yes, I do have it. So the password is the root. I remember. Okay, yeah, perfect. So this is more of your MySQL, as you can see. The commands. The commands I remember, if I were to check show table, but first I need to call out the student database. So there are certain there are certain commands that you need to do. Let's say show table. It won't perform because let's check show database. Okay, so there are commands that you need to do in order for you to check. I remember the last time when we doing system development, we were creating tables. Oh, okay, let's do this. Show database. Okay, the syntax error, at least there's something positive. There is certain commands that you need to use in order for you. I just wanted to show a relational database form, but I'll just remember the syntax, the commands, and we'll go back into this type of relational database. So that is more of your relational database. And also we've got the hierarchical database management system. So this model is a data model where data is stored as records but linked in a tree-like structure. So we've got the records. Records is where we have one. For instance, this may be referred as a record because inside the record it contains data. So we've got many fields within that record. So that's why they refer to it as a tree-like structure. Remember, a tree-like structure, we've got the parent. Within the parent, we've got the records, and we've got also children, which inside that contains data. A record is a collection of fields with each field containing only a value. The entity type of the record defines which fields the record contains. And also a record in the hierarchical database model corresponds to a row and an entity type which corresponds to a table. And also the hierarchical data model is a way of organizing a database with multiple to one many relationship. Looking at the slide 26, we've got a three types of tables that we have. We've got the person table, authors table, and the books table. So within the person tables, we've got the rows and columns, and we've got an ID one which refers to author. So when we move to the author table, the relationship, when we create the author tables, it consists of the list of authors that we have. So the description in our parent table, author, it describes that the author is the writer, the speaks, and trainer. So that is the parent ID. So parent ID author contains information within. So we've got Alan O'Neill, which is the author writers on AI, and so this refers to the parent ID one. So obviously for parent ID two would be for book table, which consists of these data. So that's more of your hierarchical database management system. And also this is what I've just explained on this table. So also lastly, we've got your network table. Your network database is based on a network data model which allows each record to be related to multiple primary records and multiple secondary records. Also, a network database allows you to create a flexible model of relationship between entities, and also it is based on hierarchical database, except it allows each object to have multiple parents instead of a single parent. And also this allows you to model more complex relationship. So for instance, we might have multiple parents instead of one parent. So author might have another parent, which is I'm just making an example, books table. That could be a relationship with author that they have between the two. Uh, Also, network database can be represented as a graph instead of a tree structure. The graph is defined by a schema, which is a list of data nodes and the relationship between them. So this provides data structure which in a rectangular relationship database can only be accessed by inference. This is more of your network database. We've got a parent which consists with when we have a relationship between parents, and also clerks and customers consist of transactions and items. So that's it in terms of this unit standard 14944. Let's look at the questions. Let's look at the questions for your learner workbook. For your learner workbook, for activity 1, you need to demonstrate an understanding of computer data types. You need to adhere to mark allocation, that's for 5 marks. And also activity 2, you need to describe the use of coding systems in a business environment, and also distinguish correct categories of coding systems and include examples, that's for 5 marks. Activity 3, are there any difference in the concepts of advantages of an ASCII and an EBCDIC? You need to factor out, is there any difference between the two? That's for 3 marks. Activity 4, what was the purpose of several computer manufacturers cooperating to develop an ASCII code for processing and transmitting data? That's for 3 months. The good thing about these questions that you'll find in your learner guide. Activity 5, you need to demonstrate understanding of how type of data determines the operations that can be performed on it. That's for 5 marks. And for session 2, you need to describe what are computer data structures. That's for 5 marks. And activity 7, you need to list the different types of file organization and structure. That's for 7 marks. And activity 8, you need to describe the types of computer databases and identify the examples. That's for 12 marks. Please adhere to mark allocations. Failure, no less evidence, you will be deemed not yet competent. That's it in terms of your learner workbook. So let's move on to your summative assessment. Summative assessment for activity 1. You need to demonstrate understanding of different computer data types. That's for 7 marks. Most of these questions is just a repetition. You just have to copy and paste from what you have done onto your learner workbook. You need to distinguish between the extended binary coded decimal interchange code and ASCII table. And also activity to demonstrate understanding of how data manipulation operations are performed on data types. Briefly describe types of data structures. These are much what we have done on your learner workbook. So this is just a repetition. So you can just copy and paste from the answers that you have done on your learner workbook. So that's it in terms of today's session. Please watch the video and attempt the answers or your formative and summative assessment. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.